Hello, hello, it's Brooke Devard, host of Naked Beauty, and I could not be more excited about Kate Spade New York's summer collection. They are celebrating 30 years of the brand, and the Kate Spade New York design team really outdid themselves with this summer collection. There's a gorgeous lemon-inspired raffia bag that I love, and the Bahamas sandals. It's a low heel with a feather detail at the toe. Take me on vacation immediately so I have an opportunity to wear these. Go to katespade.com to shop the Kate Spade New York summer collection now. I promise you're going to find something incredible for your summer outfits.
Hello, EggChasers. It's the EggChasers Rugby Podcast, the podcast about rugby that doesn't take itself or the game too seriously. Back in the rugby dungeon once again, as we are every Monday morning, 52 weeks of the year, for very nearly 10 years. Thank you for your support, whether you're listening today for the first time or you've been with us the whole 10 years. I'm Tim with JB.
Hello, Tim.
Barefooted and OnlyFans ready.
Yeah, that's right.
Barefooted and flying low.
He is.
It's a hell of a look with his legs akimbo like that.
You don't. That's.
I'm very comfortable.
He doesn't feel the need to use those middle three buttons on his fly.
No. Save time.
Right. You all right, gents?
Hungover.
Yeah.
Yeah, been better.
So hungover.
We've got lots to talk about on this podcast. When you look at the rugby, we had one of the greatest rugby matches of all time, and also there was a game happening in Dublin.
Yes, that is absolutely right, Tim. That's absolutely right.
Because an EggChasers 15 took to the field, and, well, JB, you represented. Phil, you supported.
I did.
And I followed from afar. Mm-hmm. And many fine, upstanding vets did battle by the current and historic rules of the game of rugby union.
And everyone was safe and no one got concussed that we know of.
Not because of the rugby, anyway. Maybe we can't speak for what happened in the bar afterwards and in the fine city of Birmingham as well.
God damn, it was heavy yesterday.
Lots of stories to be told there.
Yeah, well, maybe the worst story, the worst offence of them all, came from one of the EggChasers.
What?
More on that.
I don't believe that.
More on that soon.
Horrendous behaviour.
More on that.
Maybe we should
soon.
save that for a Patreon pod.
Or maybe we'll just tell it on this podcast.
All right. Well, so we'll get into that shortly. But come on, there's only one place to begin. We've had one of the. I jested about the greatest game of all time. We had one of the greatest rugby games, club rugby games we've ever seen.
Yep. At
the Aviva Stadium in Dublin, the biggest comeback by any side ever in a Champions Cup final, and La Rochelle retaining their title. I was about to say against the odds. I mean, it was against the odds. I mean, they're an incredible team, so it wasn't a total surprise. But after 11 minutes, I mean, you'd have got. Did you put a bet on?
I was so close to a half time, but I was just too drunk. That's exactly the sort of time that I would bet too. So I still thought La Rochelle were winning it, even when they were down by 3 tries. Do you want me to tell you why I thought that, or shall we talk about things more broadly? Because I'm with you, Tim. This is one of the greatest games of all time, and I think it's going to be remembered as one of the last great games of rugby. That's what I think.
Interesting.
So the reason I've come to this conclusion is, doesn't it just demonstrate the power of the French league, and also simultaneously show how dire everything else is? So La Rochelle, where are they in the French league? Top 4?
Top
first?
2.
Top 2? Something like that?
Yeah.
Pretty good, right?
Currently seconds, 2 points behind Toulouse.
Yeah, basically getting it done. Now, in order to stop that team, the only other club team which was remotely capable, because we've seen La Rochelle destroy Saracens, Gloucester, I keep thinking they played Exeter, but they didn't.
Ulster.
Ulster came close.
They did come close away, and they got a beating.
Yeah,
at, quote unquote home.
Yeah,
which was the Aviva Stadium.
So, in order to even come close to La Rochelle, it has required the efforts of an entire union. Leinster aren't even a club; they're a union, right? They are IRFU backed.
Well, they're 11, or is it 12 counties and 1 province. So I don't upset any passionate Leinstermen.
Yeah, it's taken every single trick in the book to get Leinster to the standard that they are. Leinster could be the best ever club side on paper, and they still can't beat beat La Rochelle. But to get that club side together, it means that Leinster are not playing half their good players, even in semi-finals of the Pro 14, or sorry, of the URC. So you've got the Premiership, which is declining. You've got the top 14, which is running away with it, and it's doing so to such an extent that the only way that you can compete with it is to run a team like Leinster with all of your internationals, all of them rested, and destroying your own domestic league in the process, because you're not competing in that. So in a few years' time, I think we'll look back and go, that was the high watermark for rugby, because we're just about seeing the embers of what the Premiership was, what the URC is, and the French League will just be completely dominant.
Well, I think we did say last week that the judgment on would it be hubris or a necessary preparation on Leinster, their approach to the URC semi-final, and it looks like hubris. What I would also say is, I certainly agree with your judgment when you look at it in context of the Premiership, and we'll definitely talk about that later on the pod. But Leinster was so close to victory, and then we'd be having a very, very different conversation.
I don't think I would, actually. I mean, I would just say, well, they are as good as they are, and they've only won one Heineken Cup in 12 years. Or 11 years.
11.
So I think I'd be saying that. I think they need to have much more silverware. I think they're losers. That's what I think. I think they're absolute losers. They have bottled it. Right?
They 100% have bottled it.
They have bottled it last year, this year. There's also, what I deem like a lack of pride in the jersey. There was a scoreline this year, 70-odd points to, 6, I think, when Leinster went away to South Africa. Who does that to your jersey? It's the Leinster jersey. This is meant to be like, if you pull on the Real Madrid shirt, or the Barcelona shirt, or the Man City shirt, or any shirt of any sporting giant, it means something.
This sounds very hot takey, I've got to say. Very
they
hot
have been
takey.
throwing away games.
This just sounds like
it's completely consistent.
Clickbait podcasting.
What is a hot take? It's the most annoying thing ever.
All right, okay.
It's a hot take something which someone has thought of.
Let me change it.
For hours and hours and hours.
Sounds like you're being deliberately controversial to get a rise.
They're absolute losers. They're meant to be their whole ethos, right, is winning stuff.
Yeah, and they're not. And so I'm saying, that's why I say we're having a different conversation now, because Andrew Porter said in the week when he was asked about the disappointment of the URC semi-final, he said, with the greatest of respect, we don't count the number of URC titles on our jersey.
That's pathetic.
It's all about
That's pathetic.
Well, okay,
it's pathetic.
That's your opinion, but
no, it is pathetic, right? Because that URC league, right?
Mate,
nothing else.
What is this? What have you got? Some vendetta? Why is it flipped and moved on to Leinster that you got a vendetta with?
Because their behaviour is pathetic.
I've never seen anyone celebrate a loss like you saw JB celebrate Leinster's loss yesterday.
The lack of respect that they showed their domestic league last week, they deserve everything that they get. Everything. Just arrogance.
You weren't saying that when Saracens put out a weak team.
Saracens didn't put out a weak team
against London Irish.
What, to play a semi-final?
Oh, no, not to play a semi-final.
It was
but this is a semi-final.
Northampton.
I mean, the South Africa one was the South Africa result for Leinster was kind of understandable. That would fit into sort of the category of Saracens sending a weakened team to London Irish, without doubt. I still don't like it. I still don't like sending weakened teams. A semi-final.
Are Leinster allowed to not care about the URC?
No.
I think that is... I actually really don't like that, the not caring about the URC. I really don't like that at all. And I said as much last week. And it does feel like... Andrew Porter was trying to justify, which of course you would do.
Monday morning quarterbacking.
Yeah, trying to justify the decisions that had obviously gone wrong. This weekend, I think you are being particularly harsh, JB. I think I said last week I thought it was going to be a coin toss. In my head, previously, Leinster were slight favourites, but last week's loss actually pushed La Rochelle to slight favourites. That is precisely how it played out. It's a 1-point loss. But it's the manner of the loss, and it's the manner of going 17-0 up at home, and it is at home. It is their home ground in front of a packed fan base of their own boys. With a few well-travelled La Rochelle fans, but to then lose it in the way they did, And they didn't lose it by getting beaten up. They actually lost it in a more surprising way, which was poor game management and repeated failures to exit effectively and getting...
James Lowe had a
15, 20 yards from kicks that should have cleared 50 yards and took a load of pressure off them and allowing that pressure to build from La Rochelle.
Is it too simplistic to say Johnny Sexton plays,
no.
Leinster win?
Leinster do not win if Johnny Sexton plays.
I think that's too simplistic. They might have done because it was a total coin toss game.
So I actually think that Leinster could have lost by more. So the way I see this game going is that Jakob Piper got the officiating around the breakdown completely wrong. Also, when you watch Leinster play, I mean, I've just called them a bunch of losers, right? That said, their physicality was absolutely world class for 30 minutes. I don't think I've ever seen anything quite so brutal. But
do you know what coincided with the physicality dropping?
Go on.
James Ryan going off.
Yes, maybe.
Because he put in
totally agree.
He put in a few awesome shots.
I would also say this. Did you see how hard they were working? I mean, sometimes you see teams wander up to breakdowns and they spread out, or they leave the breakdown alone, concentrate on other things. Leinster were regularly throwing in three players, fighting, scrapping. I mean, it's like the Rob Baxter theory of how you tire out players. You get them on their chest and then you make them stand up, right? That is exactly the way you do it. The other way is to compete at every single breakdown. So they were doing great. I mean, what they were doing around the La Rochelle breakdown was working. And it was a way to beat up La Rochelle, which La Rochelle were not expecting one bit. So you're looking 30 minutes and you think, yeah, Leinster are absolutely battering this supposedly physical team. But you couldn't do it forever. I mean, it was so much effort. And yeah, James Ryan went off, but I don't think you can play like that for over 30 minutes. I don't think you can play like that for 40 minutes.
And that's maybe something that Leinster perhaps overlooked of La Rochelle. Because La Rochelle, they are a massive team. They're also a fit team. And they changed their boys round. They've got some deep options on the bench.
Just going to what you said about Leinster managing the game, I couldn't help but map Ireland-France onto this. And the second half, as we said...
I was exactly the same.
Yeah, Ireland couldn't... so Leinster/Ireland couldn't maintain that level of physicality they showed in the first half across 80 minutes, but what they did in the second half in the Six Nations is just make France have to run from 70, 80 metres, whereas on this occasion, like you say, missed kicks from Jameson Gibson Park, from James Lowe, from Ross Byrne, and they were having to go from 25, 30 yards.
Yeah. And interestingly, this second half of the Ireland-France game, Sexton had gone off and it was Ross Byrne who was controlling the game in that. So it's such a tight game that 1 point games can go either way, but it doesn't. I don't think Sexton materially changes. Things.
I think Jakob Piper referees the breakdown in the first half like he did the second half. I think La Rochelle ran away with it. That said, I thought some of the Leinster analysis on how to break down La Rochelle for their first two tries at least it either would coincide with analysis, or it was very, 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 very fortunate. But if it was analysis which picked them apart, it was remarkably good.
Did you see Ronan O'Gara's post-match interview? So I criticised BT Sports' post-match interview of Ronan O'Gara last week. I thought this week's was excellent.
I'm sure they probably listened to you, and as a result...
I think so. That's what I like to think.
Yeah.
It was Sarah Elgin, and she just asked simple questions and let him talk. And because he's quite slow, he's very considered about what he says. He said that he was expecting a line-out trick play, but he wasn't. Obviously... expecting line-out trick play is great, but you can't stop everything. So he still got burnt with a line-out trick play, but he said he wasn't expecting it after 40 seconds into the game.
6 seconds, our boys switch on.
And he spoke about what he said at half time, and he was quite respectful in the way that he phrased it. But basically, he called Leinster at half time chokers. They were 8 points up last year in the final and lost. They were 9 points up at that time, but had been 17 points. And he said it in a very respectful way. He's like, we just told a story, used that hook, that narrative for the boys, and gave them some fire in their bellies.
And you know what? He's absolutely right.
And it worked.
as I've said about Leinster, how many times now? They don't know adversity. So they've assembled this amazing team. But there's no one to... I mean, like, URC, yeah, maybe it's not important to them because they have all the bloody players. Like, who are they going to play?
But you can't say that they're basically an international team and then withdraw the experience of Ireland when it suits you.
I don't understand what you're saying.
So as in that they do face adversity as an international team.
Yeah, it's an interesting one, that.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. The answer is I don't know.
Because almost that full squad were playing against France when they smashed them in the Six Nations.
Although it has to be said, only 8 of that, you've pointed out, was won 5 years ago and only one title in 11 years. Only 8 of the team yesterday had won the Champions Cup before.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Well, it's been so long.
It's been so long. Yeah.
5 years.
5 years.
Does this make La Rochelle? Would you say they're European royalty now? Because you don't retain a European Cup easily.
Back to back is
hardly
royalty.
ever been done. Leicester have done it. Wasps have done it.
Toulon did it back to back.
Toulon.
Saracens.
Did Leinster do it in Saracens?
Leinster did it in 11-12.
And did Toulouse do it back in the 90s?
Let's have a quick
Early
look.
2000s?
I have actually got the...
But yeah,
so Leicester did it 2000-2001. Toulouse haven't done it. Munster have done 2006 and 2008. Leinster did do it 11-12. Toulon did it 3 times. Saracens have done it, and now
that's a pretty special
list
of teams.
Yeah. And
it's 3 finals as well for La Rochelle. They kind of did. It's a bit of the Saracens where they got close, no cigar, and came back stronger.
Here's one thought with Ronan O'Gara: is there not something very Munster about La Rochelle?
Interesting.
About
Maybe.
the dog, the fight.
Totally, the fight, that mentality, just dogged mentality, never beaten, and also home is a fortress.
Yeah.
Well, there's... So the thing I wasn't thinking that at all really about La Rochelle when I was reflecting on them earlier today. I was reflecting about what a unique team that they are.
Mm.
So would they have won this? I mean, you talk about Johnny Sexton being the difference. Was Skelton the difference? I mean, if he doesn't play, I don't think they win any European Cups.
I think he might be one of the most valuable players in rugby.
Yeah.
Not least because if you just list boys as big as him who are also athletic, there is a handful. Yeah.
PSTD or PSDT.
He's not as big though.
He's not as big.
No, you're talking like
Weenie Antonio is, and he's in the same team.
Yeah.
But just as big. And so second rows who are that big. You've got that Miafu guy from Toulouse, who is going to play for France. Paul Valemse, but he's not quite as big.
Some people would say Brian
Alan Oasis.
Yeah, Alan.
Oh, I'm sorry, Alan Oasis. Yes,
I've actually met him. He's enormous, but he's not.
He's not as good as Skelton.
He's just not as good.
But there are 1 or 2 blokes who can have the kind of engine, the size, the physicality. He must be one of the most valuable players in the world because it's such an unusual combination of size and physicality.
It's one thing being unusual and being unique, and it's another thing Ronan O'Gara coming up with these systems so he can plug in these unique players and get the most. I mean, that's some amazing coaching, actually. So he's got Skelton, who's pretty unique, Antonio, who's pretty unique. I mean, there's not many Bottiers.
Bottier is unique.
Those 2 names you mentioned, because it's easy. It's easy.
Aldrit's not bad.
No, he's pretty handy.
Yeah.
So I say it's easy, but you can open a checkbook and sign a Will Skelton, right?
Well, maybe you can't. There's only one of them.
Well, there's only one of them, but I'm sure he's being paid very handsomely.
Yes, I'd imagine so.
Because he's such a rare talent, like you say. But I just think it's important to point out, a bunch of things that watching the fans watch the game at the port there in La Rochelle, watching the celebrations, the fact it's the identity of the team is so within the town itself, and it's actually quite a small town relative to other French cities. It's incredible what they've done. But those 2 names you mentioned, Weenie Antonio and Lavani Bottier. Lavani Bottier was a prison guard. Yeah,
did they not come through level 3? Like 3rd level of French rugby with them,
Yeah, exactly. And Weenie Antonio was like, was he part of there's one? Is it Weenie Antonio? One of the big La Rochelle players. I can't remember. I think it's Antonio. Was part of a like family travelling theatre group.
What?
I think I've got that right.
Well, let us know if Tim hasn't got that right. Let us know.
And he was like, again,
That's Cocker.
And again, he was lower down the playing pyramid, and La Rochelle spotted the talent and created
Spotted
this incredible
that he was 6'5" and 150 kg.
I wonder what stood out for them. Those genius scouts.
I hope I've got that right. Anyway, it's just a very, very special club, and I think
It is. Did you see the video? There's the scenes from today, but did you see the scenes from 3:30 this morning?
yeah, several thousand people met them at the airport.
At 3:30 in the morning.
Incredible.
Wow, that's amazing.
It's astonishing.
Just on the La Rochelle players, I thought, but is it Bedont, the 6?
Bedont,
Is a quality operator.
Yeah.
We spoke about Bougarit last week. He's a bit quiet, actually. I was a little bit disappointed.
Yeah, he was kept quite quiet. I really like Uge. Uge Sautini.
The 13.
The 13, who I just keep... Uge. I keep shouting Uge every time he gets the ball.
He's I think he's a point of difference. Well, he's not a point of difference.
He's just a quality player, isn't he?
Yeah, he's a nice foil to what Dante does.
Yes.
So Dante's just running over people. That first try was all Dante. Once you're fed up of tackling Skelton and Aldrit and Bougarit and all the boys and Antonio,
yeah,
then Jonathan Dante runs down your channel.
Yeah.
What a nightmare.
And Bottier and Raymond Rule as well. He's not. They're not small boys.
Serious players. Right, here we go. Awini Atonio's upbringing was South Auckland. Was in South Auckland. Growing up, he had two passions. The first was rugby.
Good.
The second was acting.
Really?
Yeah. He played everything from... his passion as an actor was Shakespeare.
No, get out of town.
Wow.
He and his brother were part of the Black Friars, a theatre group named after the London home of Shakespeare's company and dedicated to challenging stereotypes around Pacifica people in New Zealand. So he used to perform Macbeth and Romeo and Juliet. He used to go around doing that.
Fair play. It's not what I would have pictured him doing.
No. Love it.
Yeah.
La Rochelle were in the second tier at the time when they signed him, aged 21.
How old's he now then?
Must be
33.
He's 33 now.
Years
He's
now.
been there. He's been there for 12 years. So, I mean, the stories of Bottier and Antonio are far more than just getting world class talent. They've dovetailed it with just brilliant coaching, fantastic setup. I love it. And one of the going to the Stade Marcel de Flandre is one of my favourite rugby experiences. It was bonkers. Absolutely bonkers.
I would love to go.
It was bonkers.
But you just can't get to La Rochelle.
And that was for a Challenge Cup semi-final against Gloucester as well. Not one of the big games in the last few years.
And you can't get tickets even if you do manage to get there.
Yeah, sold out for 70-odd games and counting.
Yeah, and that's not going to ease up anytime soon, is it?
You just let me know how you think the Premiership are going to solve that puzzle.
Yeah.
Full French stadiums, regularly filling out, 30-odd thousand seats, football stadiums, no CVC deal, increasing TV money. You tell me, how does the Premiership face this?
I'll tell you what, we'll sort of go good to bad, but just to wrap up on this game, are you happy? And I don't like talking too much at length about refereeing generally, but you happy with the decisions Piper made?
To be fair, we were watching in the pub. I've not had the chance to re-watch it yet. I remember there was a few bits around the breakdown that looked a bit unusual, but I thought the cards all fine. I think nothing stood out to me watching it in the pub.
Kerballer's card was not fine. I think that was bad.
That was the first one. So I actually missed that because
so
we arrived slightly late.
Tackles early from a tap and go penalty. But there's cover everywhere, so it's not like he stopped the break. He just tackled early, so it's just another penalty in my mind.
Okay,
that was the first one. I thought his work on the breakdown was pretty shoddy in the first half, and then he tightened it up towards the end. But like Leinster were all over the show. You had Van der Fleer, off his feet, crawling on all fours. The Leinster players were attacking the breakdown and then sort of trying to go the other way. So instead of rolling north-south, they were rolling into scrum halves. They were coming at the side of rucks. I mean, more power to them. If they can get away with it, they should be doing it.
Yeah.
So I I thought the refereeing around the breakdown was terrible.
Is that not a bit odd? Because we talk about consistency. It was noted by the commentators. It was noted by the naked eye. Lots of people have said it, but there was a distinct difference in how Jaco Peyper approached the first 40 and the second 40.
Yeah,
and as a player, that's quite tough, isn't it?
Really tough. Well, I wonder if this fracas in the tunnel has anything to do with that.
Yeah, what happened?
Don't know.
What's going on?
Don't know, but let's make something up.
Sean O'Brien, Ronan O'Gara, who else was?
Will Skelton.
Will Skelton.
Now, in my mind, two of those guys shouldn't be in the tunnel.
Sean O'Brien and Ronan O'Gara.
No, Ronan O'Gara can be in the tunnel because he's the coach. So I don't think Sexton should be in the tunnel.
Oh, Sexton as well, yes.
And definitely not Sean O'Brien. Why is he in the tunnel? He should be miles away from it. I mean, if you're in the tunnel and you're not part of the matchday squad and you're not impeccably behaved, you should have some serious case to answer.
Is Sean O'Brien part of the coaching setup?
Maybe.
Here we go. Johnny Sexton and La Rochelle representatives involved in a serious altercation at half-time. Sexton believed to be facing ECPR sanctions. This is just me reporting what other people are saying. Well, they can just solve this with a charity MMA event between O'Gara and Sexton. That'll do.
Perfect. I wonder if they get on. I bet they don't. I mean, O'Gara seems like a spiky character.
He does.
And also, what does
I really like him.
Yeah, I do.
Really like him. Like the more I listen to him as well, the more I just want to hear him talk about stuff.
Well,
because he's so interesting. He gives such a unique perspective to things.
I mean, things in Ireland are going pretty well, except for this small blip. Mm-hmm. But, look, I guess if you talk at the more wider view of the thing, you could say, would Ireland be happy if they were continuously getting Leinster into the European Cup finals? They probably might say yes. Even though it's heartbreaking to lose them, they'd probably say yes.
Yeah,
they'd probably say they want to win them, but fine. If we're going to go to finals, we'll go to finals. And the national team is doing pretty well. So, there's that. So the question then becomes what do they want to do about Ronan O'Gara in the long term? Because he must figure in their plans. Or is he is he like Warren Gatland in New Zealand? Like the prodigal son. Not even prodigal son, like the black sheep son.
I think he'll be the next Ireland coach, won't he? If they can afford him. But it's all on timing.
I think he'll take his time. It might not be this one, it might be the next one. He seems very content to...
He's winning Heineken Cups. I bet he's well paid.
He might be slightly well paid by La Rochelle.
So La Rochelle will be looking after him, particularly if he's winning. I mean, there's more. I think there's more chance.
His next deal, however long his deal was, his next one will be significantly more because he's so valuable now.
Well, I happen to think that the more likely place for him to land would be somewhere like Toulouse, like one of these giant French clubs or a club which really wants to make progress. He's exactly the kind of guy that they'd come in and try and poach. Why wouldn't you? So I actually don't see him with a future in Ireland. I think the future of the game is all in France.
But then the IRFU, it's their choice, isn't it? They can pay whatever. If someone wants to pay him £1 million, Pat Lam was reportedly the most expensive coach in the world for 800k or $1 million. So it's something in that region. If someone in France wants to pay him that, the IRFU could match that.
Well, the problem that we're going to have, right, is at the moment the unions can match the French teams, but only just. Give it 5 more years and we're done. We're done because
I also think Ronan O'Gara is the kind of guy that money's not going to be his.
Disagree.
Prime motivator.
100% disagree. 100% disagree.
I think you could be right because he has deliberately he's went and did an assistant job for the Crusaders. That wasn't about money, was it?
Well, it was ultimately.
Long term.
Yeah. I mean, that's investing in yourself, and that's slightly different. I mean, once you've done that investment in yourself and you're at the top of your game, then actually you pay the market rate.
Ask any of the England 2003 World Cup winners how much money they've made just directly from winning a Rugby World Cup.
That's a good point. But even then, I mean, this is my point. My point is that the future of the game is not the international game. It's going to be the French league.
I disagree with you. I think the only part of rugby which is doing well in the round is the international game
and the French league.
The French league.
Those two.
The French league
domestically. The French league. Yes,
I mean, they're going to get to a stage where it's like having international revenues every single week for every round of games. And then you got this, you 6 nations, and you got a World Cup, and that's it. They won't be able to compete. At some point, it's going to get so massive. I mean, you're already seeing it now with the, now that Willis has sort of opened the floodgates. More and more England players will go because England can't afford to subsidise the English clubs for their internationals now. Jack Willis will be making as much in Toulouse now as he would do with Wasps and England combined. So why would he take the risk?
So just a slight aside, but relevant to that point, I heard Joe Marler talking on some of the grassroots pod. Joe Marchant talking about his move to Stade Francais next year, and he got asked the question like why about 5 times, and he did very well to answer in 5 different ways. It's all about the money without explicitly saying it's all about the money. It's basically. Yeah, salary cap's gone down. French league salary cap hasn't. There's a massive. It's just money,
and he's a seriously talented player.
He's mega talented. He's 26.
Yeah,
he's prime for the next few years.
Not only is he seriously talented, he's the kind of guy that'll go to France. I don't think he'll stay at Stade Francais. He's the sort of guy. Do you know the way that the top players in France tend to move about a bit?
Yeah,
he's going to move.
There is a lot of movement within France.
Yeah, there is, and eventually, other people will catch up, JB, to where we've been for a while, which is that. Let French clubs pay English. Seeing as there's not a lot of money in English rugby, let them pay English players. And the English national team just needs to also accept they can pick them. Which I think will happen because the RFU's in so much debt, they can't afford this agreement they made with Premiership clubs.
Clowns.
Where they pay a ridiculous amount of money to the Premiership clubs to have them for an extra, couple of weeks in the season.
Yeah.
It's bonkers. And as a result, exclude many players from the England squad. It's just eventually someone will wake up and start governing the game with a little bit of common sense.
It's too late, it's dead.
And they'll do the things that we've suggested that they did from the very start.
There's going to be no one to play it. I mean, like, where will they get the players from? They're all going to be playing kids' rules.
I'll tell you what, because I think we're just over half an hour now. We've only talked about the Champions Cup. Let's do an off-field pod where we can get really negative, and let's do this. Let's keep this about the rugby, and really positive and great things, because we've got a Premiership final to look forward to, URC final with EggChaser listener Graham Roundtree, who when I see him when I'm working and I see him at a Munster game, he always just from afar quite often, if I don't get the chance to. Or outside of the interviews when he's just walking across like the car park and stuff, let the boys play. He always gives it one of them. So we've got that to talk about, and let's talk about the EggChasers vets team doing battle in the West Midlands. Yeah,
well, I didn't. Okay, so for a start, I did not know it is an EggChasers vets team. I didn't know. I thought we were playing for Iguanas.
What?
Yeah, a few of us thought that. I was like, so who are we playing for, boys? I didn't realise that we were playing. So that was a nice surprise.
Okay. No, it was an EggChasers vets team.
Yeah, I didn't know that. I did not know that. Yeah, we had players from all over the show, all organised by our friend Lee.
Yeah,
Lee did a great job.
Now, let's talk about Lee. Let's talk about Lee for a small second. Lee is a very unique character. He's one of these characters that only happens in rugby clubs. And this is why rugby clubs are great, because it forces you to interact with people based on a shared interest, right? The more peculiar things Lee does, the more he ingratiates himself with me. And Friday night was maybe the most peculiar thing a man has ever done. I'm about to go for some beers on a Friday night at 7:30 with 4 other lads, and out of nowhere Lee texts, I'm coming out, but wherever we go, it's got to be dog friendly. He bought his dog on a night out in Birmingham on a Friday. So, like, mate, I'm not sure what rooftop balls you're expecting to get into here.
Does he not know about your drinking habits?
I was like, what on earth? So, yeah, he bought his dog out. And do you know why he bought his dog out? He bought his dog out, right? Because he felt the dog was lonely from not seeing him all day. It wasn't even a real excuse. It was an emotional thing. And he sat there with his dog. Like, if I had to bring my dog out, I'd be so apologetic. Boys, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. This is the worst thing that I've ever done. I'll buy beers. Jesus, look, I'll just sat there completely unapologetic, like it's the most normal thing in the world. But yeah, only he could get away with that, and it actually ingratiated him more to me.
Love it. Did you? So you drank at altitude on the Friday?
No, because we had a dog.
You drank on Friday in Birmingham?
Yes. And I had a few beers before the game, a beer at half time, a few beers after the game. Then we had 2 hours of watching La Rochelle with a few beers. We then had a court session, which was phenomenally well organised.
Yeah, Dave Mack did an amazing job on the court session.
With a lot more beers.
Again, just fill in some highlights, because quite often we get people saying when they're doing some sort of stag do or social or rugby club, like, oh, what was that thing you mentioned, and sparking some ideas. So what ideas could you spark?
We can't tell you anything about the court session, unfortunately.
What happens in court stays in court.
I'll stay there.
Well done. You passed. Yeah.
Nice try, Cocker. Yeah, so we started with about... Well, obviously, we played a game of rugby, so there's 30 lads, dwindled to 15, dwindled to 14, 12. By the time we got to court session, probably on 8. By the time we got into town,
court session was maybe 12,
wasn't it?
12 plus 2, I think.
Yeah.
There's 2 not drinking, doing burpees for punishments.
And then eventually we got to town, and I remember I was one of 3 left. Now, can we talk about the most heinous crime? The most heinous crime of the evening.
I think this is entirely made up. I think this is a fabricated story. So, whatever JB is about to say.
So it's not that it's not that I wasn't there.
You've actually got away with this somehow.
I want to make a public apology. Because BT Sport didn't need me, I booked a holiday to Greece.
That's absolutely fine.
And I got back and stayed in Marlow. Home with my boys, Marlow. I stayed in Marlow on the Saturday, got back from the airport about 20 minutes after the Champions Cup final had begun, so I stayed there, and then I had to come back to Manchester via, and here's a sentence I never thought I'd say, via a cow barn that I had to check had the cows had vacated.
You evicting cows?
I'm evicting cows, yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
So
anyway, so that wasn't heinous, but I apologise nonetheless, but go on.
So I phoned Phil this morning. And I said, mate, you've got some explaining. And, better wouldn't know. He goes, me? What did I do? So, let's talk about what Phil did. Phil and I were at the court session. We got an Uber back from a pub in Bourneville over to the city centre. We both got back in the hotel, quick change, out again. Phil goes, I'm a bit peckish. So I can see Phil's a little bit drunk. He's flagging a bit. I buy
flagging
him,
a bit is an understatement.
I buy him a Red Bull, but he's still pretty, compos mentis. It's all going well. Phil, can you remember the tapas that I bought you?
Not entirely.
Why didn't you tell Tim what you ordered?
You told me I ordered octopus.
I was about to guess octopus.
Yeah, so you ordered octopus, you ordered ribs, and you ordered chicken livers. Wolf them down.
That'll get you going again.
Good choice.
No, you would have thought so, right? JB, I'm off to the toilet. 10 minutes later, there's no Phil. I was like, where is he? Has he fallen asleep on the toilet? I can't find him. Anyway, disabled toilet's locked. So I'm like, fucking hell. Let's go and get a member of staff. Let's open up the toilet. Not there. Phil has scarpered. So this morning...
He's trapdoored it.
He's trapdoored it, right? So I've got the meal. I've got the beers to pay for. That's no problem. In the morning, though, I was like, what has happened to Phil? So, Phil, can you explain yourself? Doesn't remember the meal, doesn't remember getting changed, doesn't remember the taxi into Birmingham, and then fucking trapdoored from the tapas restaurant. Wonderful.
The court session was bad.
It was a heavy court session.
It was heavy.
Yeah, the secret to our court session, right, is we had all of our beers lined up in front of us, so we knew we were going to do X amount. So just start drinking. Regardless of your fines, just start drinking and get through them all. Because once they're gone, they're gone.
Yeah.
So that
and
was
we had a little
strategy.
Royal Rumble as well.
Oh, yes, we played Royal Rumble.
Oh, yes, awesome.
Yeah.
So, yes, it was excellent.
Go on then, because we talked about that one before. It's not breaking the rules of the quarter session. Explain the Royal Rumble, because this is the sort of thing that's great for a stag do or a rugby social.
Yeah. Everyone goes to the bar, has to buy a drink. It can be as nice or as horrible as you want. You put them all on a table together, and then the names are pulled out of the hat. First person gets first pick, which happened to be JB.
Yes, but you can never be sure. It could look like a
and this is
a water, and actually it's Pure vodka.
Pint of vodka.
As soon as you touch it, it's yours.
Yeah. And that is part of the skill, actually, to have something that either looks nice but is actually terrible, or looks terrible but is actually not too bad. That's always good fun. Very good fun.
I have. I'm not going to reveal my source, but I've got a question. It says, and I'm not going to say who this is from, but I got a message saying, "One for the pod later. Ask JB how his second half performance was at the game yesterday."
Unbelievably, I got slightly injured playing rugby.
Did you?
Yeah, I've got something wrong with my thigh. So I scored a try. It wasn't great.
You scored a lovely try. Went round the fullback.
Yeah, and then I thought I was in for another, and I gave the worst pass. And at that point, I thought, do you know what? I have nothing more to give to this game. In general, like you can't throw a pass like that and expect to be respected. So off I went. So yeah, I got a slight thigh injury.
You're doing your best Tommy Bowe impression.
Yeah, it was dreadful actually. I went round a 80-year-old fullback though.
You did go round maybe late 50s.
Late 50s, whatever he was. Yeah,
a proper vet. Fair
he
play.
Was so glad you went round him instead of straight into him.
I do get a lot of people letting me go round them though. It's good.
This source said, ask about JB's second half performance, and it says also, just one observation, he was at one point topless running across the pitch, nearly took out one of our guys whilst he was scoring a try.
Yeah, so we were playing underneath our own sticks, and they tried to break out. I was like, well, I'll just run across the field, because my sister had arrived with her netball team to watch us play. I was like, right, I'm going to say hello to my sister and the girls. Went across the pitch, topless, and also with no boots on, and I can see the play developing. Like, they're not going to break, and then I realise that they're breaking, they're coming my way, and I've got this thigh injury, and I'm in the middle of the field, so I've got to hobble off. Like, they can't come this side of the field. Oh God, they're coming this side. So I had about 5 metres until contact was made.
Excellent. Thank you very much to that individual. You know who you are, for those questions. I'm glad you had a good time, and I'm sure there's plans already being made by Lee for the next game or get together of some description.
Well, it can't be in England, although I wouldn't mind going to Bournemouth Sevens. That's one of the things that we might do.
Yeah,
have a few beers there.
Bournemouth sounds fun.
It does, doesn't it?
It does sound fun. Right. I didn't see at all. I was in Greece. I didn't see the Challenge Cup final.
I watched it.
Did you watch it?
Talk to me about it.
Yeah. It was. So it's really interesting. Beforehand, Austin Healey made a point that I really agreed with, which was then proven wrong. So both Austin and I are clearly idiots or not in the know. But he said this is going to be an interesting battle between the superstars of Toulon, who are superstars as individuals but not necessarily fit together as a team. Bearing in mind, Toulon are in 8th place, so they're kind of middle of the road in the top 14, versus not quite the same superstar high-end top talent in Glasgow, but a really good, well-organised squad and team. And it wasn't both the Toulon's firepower and the way they played. They made Glasgow look like it was men against boys for 50 minutes of this game. It was game over at half time. And Toulon do have some quality stars. Colby, Villiers, Bigger, although he went off in a few minutes in.
That winger whose name I can't pronounce.
Wainikolo.
Yeah, that's the one.
And Naya Savelu and Baptiste Saran, who went off early as well. Baptiste Saran was quality.
We got sorry, I was just going to say we got one email. Oh no, you say what you're going to say.
It's just that Baptiste Saran would be, in any other time frame, the French starting scrum half for the generation.
It's quite remarkable actually, because he's such a French scrum half as well.
Yeah, he's very good.
He's such a unique for most other nations, but not for France. He's such a creative, elusive player, and he doesn't get a look in.
I'm certain he captained Bordeaux at age 18.
Oh, he's such a good
sure
player.
He played fullback for them for.
Oh, really?
Years. Yeah, I seem to remember that.
But add to that list, you've got Priso, you've got Charles Olivon and the soon-to-be retired Sergio Parise, who was still class in this.
An email here from Luke Leonce, or Leonce, or I hope I've said that right. Just Luke, anyway. Thank you for your email. Contact eggchasers@gmail.com. Great pod, blah, etc. I must ask that when a front row finally going to be recognised in man-of-the-match performances, it's always the winger, a full-back, or a back row, but Gigashvili was everywhere against Glasgow. He came back on and got another maul turnover. He dominated the scrum.
The scrum was dominant as well.
And again, that's not to say not to say there's anything wrong with it, but I think naturally props probably do get overlooked more than they deserve. And by the sounds of it, according to Luke anyway, he had a massive part of the destruction of
Props
Glasgow.
do get overlooked. I was going to say, if you want to get man of the match, one of the most consistent places to do it would be hooker, because you can be Dan Sheehan, you can be
Cowan Dickey, Jamie George.
Yeah, there's
Bugarit.
Yeah, Bugarit is who's the London Irish boy again? Argentine.
Augustine Creevy.
Montoya. I mean, some of the best players
Montoya
on the planet now operating at hooker. It's like one of the premier positions.
And because they ride the rolling wall. Yeah. So yeah, it was good to see Parise in one of his last games.
Why is he retiring? It looks like he's got ages to go. And he scored.
39, yeah. He probably could keep going.
Keep going.
39, one more year.
Well, he missed out on selection for the wider Italian squad.
Did he?
Which is what he was hoping for.
So Jimmy Gopperth is retired this week. Sergio Parise and,
Alan Wynne-Jones.
Jones.
Justin Tipperick.
Yeah.
I wonder what's going on there. Have they retired with immediate effect? Or
Let's talk about that on the off-field pod, because that is an interesting point, one of many talking points.
Right.
But yeah, well done Toulon. And Dan Biggar.
Yeah, Dan Biggar, although he only played 3 minutes.
He's still got another winner's medal.
So that was interesting, because Biggar goes off, then Saran goes off, then the 12 goes off, and then Villiers goes off. So Bastereau came on, so he was lined up to be a back row replacement, which is where he's basically been playing, but ended up finishing the game in the centres, or playing the second half of the game in the centres, because Toulon just lost all of their back options.
So we've got a Premiership final to preview then.
Yes.
How do you see this one going? It seems like there's quite a bit of buzz from Sale Sharks fans.
Sale Sharks are excited. They're really excited.
Yeah.
And they should be. It's an incredible achievement. I think this is going to be mighty close,
I think it's going to be... I said a little while ago, if Sale get through, they've got no chance. I think I was wrong about that. They have got a chance. I think Saracens are slight favourites, but Sale, when they start manhandling people, which they do frequently, they are really hard to play with.
Yeah, so
and they've got George Ford as well, who's so key.
If we just look at how these encounters have gone in the past, Saracens, when it's really got tasty, Saracens have had the better of Sale. So Sale like to be really aggressive in your face, but I think Saracens do it just as well, and they're even more niggly. So if you remember the match where Byron McGuigan got red carded, or at least yellow card, I can't remember which one it was.
I think it was a red card.
Was it a red card? Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, because he threw
Tompkins.
Tompkins was getting in his face all day long. Lazowski is getting in his face all day long. And they're really, really good at the niggle. I mean, you've got to be careful what you wish for if you're Sale and you want to play that game against Saracens, because you could find yourself in an absolute world of pain, as many, many teams have. Now, if the Premiership final degenerates into two teams just wanting to fight each other, I'm all for it. So I'm going to make this into my own personal gripe, I guess. What is the main point of difference for this Premiership final? What have the authorities been pushing that's so important for this particular Premiership final?
Presumably the Sanderson-Saracens link.
You would have. Oh my God, Sanderson-Saracens is a great storyline.
The two Premier fly halves, or two of the best
old mates, Ford and Farrell.
Yeah, another great storyline. Anything else that you think of?
Back row battle. Ben Earl versus a Curry.
Curries.
One Curry.
There's also the sheer physicality. there's the northern team against these awful Londoners. It goes on and on, right? But actually, what Premiership Rugby have decided to focus on is away kits for colourblind fans. And you think, what is wrong with you people? You had all of these things to talk about, and that's the angle which you've been pushing on social media all week.
I agree with you, and not because I mean, I don't really care what the kits are, which I guess is the point. If they've come to the decision that Sale want to play in red and Saracens want to play in white, fine. I mean, it seems a bit odd, but fine.
It does seem a bit odd.
But I don't really care, but I agree. So
why is this the point? I mean, just play in the kits.
Make the decision.
Yeah.
It doesn't need a big whole publicity, PR push.
They're idiots.
I have to totally agree with you. I've got no issue with the decision, but the level of publicity and PR pushing for this decision is just bizarre. You've got a cup final, and look at the state of the Premiership. When are people that really know how to sell the game and manage the game and administer the game going to be in the positions to do so? Because it's evident that
they make too much money podcasting. That's the problem.
I found it really odd. Not that they're doing it. I don't care that it's been pushed as a big narrative.
Yeah. This is why rugby's special. This is rugby family, rugby community, rugby values. Shut up. It's about smashing people in the face, isn't it?
Especially when you got a load of giant South Africans.
It's about absolutely burying someone and then rubbing your hand in their face and saying, well done. That's what it's about. It's about Tuolangi and Ashton. In fact, if anything, if I was going to cut a promo video for this, I would start with Tuolangi and Ashton. I'd profile every single fight and physical confrontation from the last 10 years.
Well, Ashton's at Leicester, but... Ashton's at Leicester.
Yeah, so I'd get the historic footage.
Yeah. Right,
was that not when he was at Northampton?
Yes. So I would be previewing... my video that I would do is having every fight from every single Premiership final.
Okay.
Right,
gotcha.
Leading up to this one. This is what's going to happen.
Was that even in a Premiership final?
Yeah, it was. It was the... I'm sure it was.
I don't think it was.
Well, maybe it's a semi, but it was a big game.
Yeah, I don't think it was a final.
I think it was a semi-final.
And also, I'd have the best try. I think they have done this actually. So I think the best try ever scored in the Premiership playoffs is. Would anyone like to guess what I'm going to say?
Premiership playoffs.
The Chiefs at Saracens when Henry Slade does the kick for the corner.
That is a good one.
That was good.
But no, that's not my favourite. It's not one which is particularly special on its own, but at the time it was amazing.
Go on.
Tom Wood scoring in the corner against Leicester after moving house that day, doing it on his own after hiring a van. What a hero. What a hero. So I'd be, those are the things that we need to be seeing, like the history of the Premiership, what it means to the players that have played, the fights, the physicality, the brutality, all of that stuff. Now, hopefully, this final is going to be a lot harder for Sale than the previous one was, because when they previously went to final, it was over in about 5 minutes. I think this one's going to go all the way to the wire, and I think Saracens will get it. Actually, I think, but I can't be sure.
I don't mind who wins this one because they're two great teams, great stories, and Saracens fighting back and doing it, and without an awesome back row's worth of talent.
Are they ageing Saracens though? That's my only thing.
They are.
Yeah, they do. They do have a shelf life on some of those talents,
and they're missing some talent in the back row.
McFarland, Vunipola, Christie.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not that bothered that Christie missing. I mean, Christie's a good player, but when
it's significant when you get Curry, Dupree, and
Dan Dupree's
John
out.
O'Ross. Oh, Dan Dupree's out.
Dan Dupree's out. Yeah.
So, and Ben Curry and Dan Dupree are out.
Yeah.
So Ben Curry being lost he's out of the World Cup as well, isn't he?
Yeah, that's really bad.
Awful.
So you've probably got... Okay, so it's likely to be maybe Jean-Luc Dupree at number 8.
Yep, could well be.
Or John O'Ross.
But John O'Ross and Tom Curry flanks. Dugdale could get...
Dugdale's a great shout.
Yeah.
So, they're going to be fine. They're going to be absolutely fine. Yeah. But it's going to be a very, very good game. Very, very good game. Very physical game.
I think it comes down to Ford Farrell. I really do.
What's Josh Beaumont said about it this week?
He said he's expecting a physical game.
Really? Wow.
That
does surprise me. Yeah, so I think that Saracens will match them physically, and I suspect Saracens will have something planned for them out wide. I don't know why, but Saracens execute very, very well in those outside channels, a bit like they did against. Is it Leicester? No, not Leicester.
Northampton.
Yeah, and I don't think that Sale will deal with that particularly well.
I think Sale have to win up. Sale, if Sale win, they'll bully Saracens up front. If Saracens get anywhere near parity up front, then they'll be fine because their backline are just.
I just can't see
awesome.
Sale. I can't see Sale being dominant enough.
Farrell, Tompkins,
Lazowski.
Will he play 13 or?
I would have thought so, but the only is whether Daly
that.
comes back in. But I would have thought they'd have those two, and then I think Daly might come in onto the wing for Maitland. Because you have
Maitland, good.
Yeah.
That's tidy, isn't it?
Yeah.
Although Daly at fullback early in the season was just immense.
He was amazing. It's good to see him back fit.
What about the URC final? Can Munster go to South Africa and come away with the win?
I hope so. I mean, I never thought I'd be supporting an Irish province in the URC final, but I am actually. I like Munster. I like what they stand for. I particularly like the fact that they beat Leinster. Although I love the South African teams. At the moment, they're worth watching. I can't believe I'm saying this. URC rugby is worth watching for the South African teams because some of the squads that they have and some of the brutality that they bring to the game is glorious. But so actually, I could be describing Munster. So I don't know.
I think it's a tough ask for Munster to go. Kind of not expecting to get through. Last weekend was really their final, and to then go away to the Stormers. So I think the Stormers are going to win relatively comfortably.
I think
Munster will have a great party in Cape Town.
I'm hoping Munster win. I'm hoping Munster win. I don't really care who wins. I'm looking forward to the game. I think it'll be a good game. I could be happy with either team winning.
If Munster lose, Peter Armani will not be partying in Cape Town. He'll sit there grumpy in the corner, desperate to get on the first flight home to go and tend to his lawn.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, I don't know. I think you're right. Actually, I think Stormers.
I think Stormers will have just a bit too much up front.
Right. Contact eggchasers@gmail.com, patreon.com/eggchasers, and should we do a Patreon pod?
Yeah, I've got a fascinating story.
It's quite juicy, this one, isn't it?
It is a fascinating
We're going to
story.
keep it behind a paywall for our most trusted patrons, who we know will be discreet and mature with the salaciousness of what we're going to share.
Indeed.
Hit subscribe wherever you get your podcasts and let the boys play.
That was right.